Well, good morning, church. How's everybody doing today? Good. Y'all didn't do what first service did. First service, somebody over here started singing the song once it was over with from the bumper video, and we had to dial it back in. But yeah, anyways, so good to see everybody today. Does anybody know anybody who's an annoying optimist like that? No? I've always been told that if you don't raise your hand, that it might be you. So I see fingers pointing. Annoying optimist. Everybody has somebody like this in their life, or at least probably has known of someone like this. I would say it's definitely necessary to have somebody like this in your life. It definitely keeps things interesting and making sure that the worst parts of your life are somehow turned around to not be so bad by that optimist in your life. Sometimes I think I am this for our youth ministry here. So I get the opportunity to speak to our youth ministry, one of the rotating speakers, and we just finished up this series, actually, James 1, which we're going to do with the church, which is very exciting. But a lot of times I wonder that I'm just annoying to them. Like, I'm just the guy who stands over here saying God's in control over and over again, and they are just not buying it sometimes, you know? Like, I am all of a sudden the annoying optimist by trying to draw attention to, I don't know, what God says. And it's a delicate balance because these students are dealing with stuff that I didn't deal with as a kid until much later in life. And so sometimes it's hard to be an optimist. And sometimes it's hard to tell them that what's going on in their life is not the worst thing that will ever happen to them. Considering that they're only 13 years old. But I feel like that's what I am in the youth. The theme verse of this series is James 1:22, which says, "Do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves, do what it says." And so the idea of a James 1 era, what that meant, and maybe you've seen a bunch of students walking around with these t-shirts on, which actually you can get from the merch store if you want to wear one too. We're working on getting one with the Essential logo, which should be up soon. But anyways, what this means is that you're leaving your past behind and you're stepping into a life that God has created for you. But specifically, when things get tough, you know that this is just part of God's design. You know that God is not trying to hurt you, that there's something in all of this that we are missing. And so by stepping into a James 1 era, it's when we as adults, we've learned these traits of running away. These students are developing at a young age. They're learning not to run away when things get hard, to stand up when things get, when they feel like they're the only ones saying what's being said or standing up for the right thing. It's being doers of the word and not just listeners. And so that's what James 1 era means for these students. But back to this annoying optimist, this video, this Chris Traeger guy. If you jump into James chapter 1, it's very interesting how he opens up this particular letter, how he starts it. He says this, he says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." When James writes this down, this whole count it all joy when you face trials, I'm not sure that what he's talking about here is a Chris Traeger style response to this. Like, he's not telling us to throw a party every time life punches us in the face. He's not telling us to smile through all of our grief. He's not necessarily saying to fake optimism, if there's anything worse than people with fake optimism. He's calling for a faithful perspective, and that's what we were working with our students for 3 weeks on, is how to look at life with a faithful perspective based on James chapter 1. And so a little context to this, if you're not familiar with this passage was written James didn't write this from a place of like a all-inclusive vacation, right? I get really frustrated when people who have their whole life put together tell me everything's going to be okay. I struggle with that. I struggled with this in ministry for a long time. I worked at a big, multi-site megachurch one time, and I remember specifically I was putting in 80 hours a week. Never sleeping. I'm at the office all the time, just work. And then at one point, we had to go launch a location in Tampa, Florida, and I'm in Maine. And so, 2 days a week, I'm flying to go work on that. I'm having to stay at an employee's house, sleep on their floor, travel in their minivan with their family, like no independence, no whatsoever, and this was like weeks and weeks of doing this. And so finally, I looked at my pastor and I said, "Dude, I'm dying, man. I'm dying right now. Like I need a break. I need something." And he goes, "Dude, we get to do this." Oh. He stayed in the Marriott, had a rental car, but we get to do this, right? Yeah. Oh, count it all joy, man. I know you're working hard, but count it all joy. Man, it's really easy to say that from your perspective where you're standing right now. That frustrates me to no end. And here we have James, who was the half-brother of Jesus. And one of the things we always say here at Essential is if you missed it, you missed out. Imagine missing that your brother was the Son of God. James wasn't a believer. He didn't believe this. And it wasn't until the crucifixion that he, obviously was like, wow, I was wrong. That's a big thing to miss out on, right? But in response to this, he joins the early church, and then he leads the church in Jerusalem. And at this point in time, the church was under tremendous amounts of attack. Okay, they're going through Christian persecution. Families were being split in half. Some were being imprisoned, tortured, killed. Poverty was running rampant. Believers were being scattered all over the place. And so this letter was written not from a good place, but from a place of war, a place of outright war. And so James writes to people, and he's not writing from a place of safety, but from this shared suffering experience that they all are going through. And he starts the whole letter with this holy hand grenade that he throws in, as he says, count it as joy. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes that angers me and frustrates me. And imagine trying to communicate this to students who are going through, quote, the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their life, and you're trying to tell them, oh, dude, everything's fine, count it as joy. I'd be mad at me too sometimes as I get frustrated with this passage. But if we continue to look at what this means, when James is saying when you face trials, not if, he says when, the first point that we try to at least put into the minds of our students is that trials aren't punishment. They're not punishment. They're preparation. Preparation for something else that's going to be happening, something you don't even know about yet, something beautiful that God's got in design and in control. You're not there yet. But what he says is he says when you face trials, not if, you cannot worship your way out of the human experience, period. I have a hard time with prosperity gospel. I have a hard time with a pastor telling me that your life is going to be all sunshine and rainbows and everything you need as long as you have the right amount of faith. And so if anything bad happens in your life, all of a sudden you don't have enough faith. This doesn't make any sense to me, especially when I read in Scripture and I say, when you face trials, okay, cool. So that's not prosperity at all, because that type of presentation, that of the gospel, that's the Chris Traeger presentation, right? That everything is great always. And if it's not, you don't have enough faith. And your life is going to be great because God is on your side. And God is on your side. But James is specifically talking here. It says, when you face these trials. And so it'd be dumb for me to stand in front of students and say, life is going to be great. We're not preparing them for anything. A lifetime of mistakes, a lifetime of running away from things when they get tough or when they get, too much to handle. And it's why so many kids and students and adults and marriages, and the more that we look at this, the more we realize that it's a pattern of behavior that sticks with you your whole life, to where when things get tough, we run away. Or we end the relationship, or we end the marriage, or we get new friends, or we move to a new job, or we move to or whatever it is. Insert that into however that goes. For students, maybe it's that the team was too hard, so they quit. They didn't want to play anymore because they couldn't keep up. A relationship was not what they thought it was going to be. They're teenagers. Let's just quit. Let's forget about this. And it's why so many of these kids end up being adults, much like you and I, where at least I'm speaking for myself here. When things get tough, my natural instinct is I'm good. I'm going to go back over here where it's easier. But trials aren't punishment. They're preparation. And a childlike faith, which is what we hope to instill into students, as childlike faith is amazing, but at some point a child discovers life and all that comes with it. And you realize that there's chores, bills, relationships, depression, anger, hopelessness, sickness, death. All of these things come into play. And so then the question becomes, what do you do when life brings the heat? And many of students and adults can't answer this question because they've been taught their whole life to just start over, run away, go where it's easier, go where you're comfortable, be in your comfort zone. It's a prison. And it doesn't prepare anybody for what's to come in life. And so the question for the students was, what do you do? When life throws lemons at you, what do you do? When life gets tough, what do you do? And so James is telling us in chapter 1, he's telling us that we need to reframe the way that we look at trials. Not viewing them as punishment, but looking at them as a preparation for something bigger. He says, reframe this. Joy here, in this particular instance, count it joy, doesn't necessarily mean that you feel good, right? It's not that type of explosive joy, but it means that you know that God is up to something really, really good, even if it hurts. Back at Christmas time, we talked about this, the joy of the Lord is our strength. Why do we say that? The joy of the Lord is our strength. We gather strength that what brings God joy is a good restoration story. He loves to restore. He loves to rebuild. That's what brings God joy. And so if we delight in that, if we know that and we remember that, it means that we know that God is up to something good even when it hurts. That's joy. It doesn't necessarily produce a smile, but it produces hope unlike any other. Point number 2 that we talked with our students was that testing is not failure, it's formation. It says, if you go to chapter 1, 2 through 4, it says, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. God doesn't test you to expose weakness in your life. He tests you to develop the faith within your life, to get the soft stuff out of your life. I did an illustration with our students. Parents will typically groan when they see something like this right here. Play-Doh. It's a simple concept. It's an elementary concept, but Play-Doh is interesting because I did a thing with the students where I told them that they were all very much like Play-Doh, which at first I don't think they loved to be told that. But as I started to think more about this, I realized this really applies to just about all of us. Play-Doh is interesting. It comes in all kinds of different colors and shapes and moods, and sometimes all of them at one time, which is what we deal with students a lot, is that they don't know how to, no idea. Why am I blue? I don't know. That's how God made you. Okay, well, let's work through that. It gets squished under pressure. That's pretty easy, right? That Play-Doh is easy to squish. It doesn't take a lot. That's why children can play with it, is that a child can take this and squish it. So any type of pressure, it gets squished. Doesn't hold up. It sticks to everything that it's not supposed to. Everything. So bad habits or drama or that one ex that you can't seem to get out of your life anymore and you keep going back to him again, you stuck to it, but you can't get it off. I won't do it again. I threw a piece on the ground and I smeared it into the carpet, and I don't think April liked it because it wouldn't come out. Of course, I chose red, but you understand, you infiltrate that into the fibers of a carpet, it never comes back out again. It smells weird, which was more true for the students than it was for the adults, but I thought it was funny, like a mixture of Axe body spray and cafeteria pizza. It's disgusting. It's fun to shape. It's fun to play with. Even up here, I'm obviously I have ADHD, so something like this is gold for me to just have something to play with. And it is fun to shape, but sometimes it's a complete mess to clean up, especially when emotions get in the way of life, and what was supposed to just be a sculpture ends up being your breaking point, and then it's not fun anymore. I like this one. When left alone too long, it dries up. Now, parents, I'm a parent too. I know how it works. You leave that joker out for 12 hours, you could throw it away. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Uh-oh, the Play-Doh dried out. Who did that? Oh, not Dad. Right? It does dry out, but it's all the reason why community matters. It's one of the things that we're talking to our students about. You have to be surrounded by people or you will dry up. When left alone, it dries up. It gets blended with others and it loses its identity. Parents, you know what this is like when my daughter, 5 years old, takes every color in the rainbow and says she wants to make a rainbow and it comes out brown. Because at one point, all the colors get mashed together and they don't exist anymore. And you know this is even more powerful, is the fact that once that happens, there's no possible way you will ever restore it back to its original form, original color, because it's been blended too much. And the last thing is that it's moldable. It's shaped by what's around them. So words, environments, people, everything leaves their mark in us. And so it doesn't take a whole lot when you're soft like Play-Doh for someone to push you in the wrong place and it be stuck that way because of how moldable it is. And so I took the students, I took 3 of them, I put them at a table behind me and I gave them Play-Doh and I said, I want you to create something beautiful. a plate, a bowl, a vase maybe. And so for the whole time I'm up here preaching, they're back there shaping and really dialed in. And every now and then I would just turn around and smash everything. Just I'd grab the Play-Doh and squish it like this and throw it on the floor. And it got to the point where the students were covering all their stuff when they'd see me turn around because they knew I was going to smash it and break it. And then they have to start all back over again. But this is this kind of truth bomb that we hit these students with, is that when you're forming your life by yourself, when you're molding this soft clay, this soft Play-Doh, when you're forming this life by yourself, that even small hits can completely wreck you. I mean, it took her 10 minutes to put together, and in 1 second, I can squish it and you lose its identity, and it's gone. And the reality is that a lot of times, most of the time, the trials that we face in our life, they feel like these smashing moments. I'm never going to be okay. I'm never going to get past this. I'm never going to be okay after that divorce. I'm never going to be okay after I failed at that job. I'm never going to be okay after my mom passed away. Whatever it is, you feel as though you're never going to be able to get through it because you're smashed and you've got no identity left. Point number 3 that we launched into was that we let perseverance finish its work. And so if you look at this passage again, 2 through 4, it says, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Let perseverance finish. That little word, let, I think, is one of the most brutal words in this entire passage of Scripture. And the reason why I believe this is that because that word means stay, endure, don't leave early, don't numb it, don't dodge it, stay. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So the question is, what's missing? Because this can't keep going on forever. You can't just continuously be a soft blob of Play-Doh that gets wrecked and then you say, oh, count it as joy, and then you rebuild it over again. That doesn't work, right? We have to find out a solution to this. And so you weren't meant to stay squishy. You were meant to be strong. We told the students you weren't meant to be soft like Play-Doh. If you view trials as smashing moments, you will stay squishy and misformed for your entire life. Because pottery needs what? Fire. It's a simple concept. It's something that most of us all know, is that you can't just go into a pottery studio and make something and take it home and eat out of it. It doesn't work that way. The whole thing falls apart because it has to be put into a kiln. It has to be going through fire. It has to be dried. It has to be molded into something that's permanent, something that's strong. And so when life hits, we like to ask these little questions like, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? What if instead we change that to, what are you shaping inside of me, God? What is it that this fire is shaping inside of me? So there's a little bit more serious ways that we are like this Play-Doh, and first is that it can be shaped into something beautiful. You can shape this into something beautiful, but it takes patience and it takes intentionality. The second is that it's vulnerable to being crushed if not handled with care. Our decisions affect a lot of what we do and what we face in life. We handle our lives with care. We see results because of it. It does not become strong until it's gone through the fire. It can always be reshaped. The mistakes don't define the final form. A lot of our students are 13, 14 years old, and they believe that their mistakes have solidified who they are permanently. Imagine if we believed that, or even at an older age believed that God can't still reshape or reform something that is broken. It needs 2 hands to be shaped properly. Arguable, someone with 1 hand could probably make something, I'm sure, but 2 hands makes it better, and so that's where we place God with community. And we see the 2 of those things walk hand in hand. Our students and community, you guys are small groups together, living life together, which if you're not a part of a small group, come talk to one of our staff members here at Essential. We'd love to get you plugged in because we believe that community is how we go through these things. Galatians 6 says, bear one another's burdens, and in this way you'll fulfill the law of Christ. It means to help and support each other, sharing each other's difficulties, thereby demonstrating love and obedience to Christ's teachings. Life is a lot easier when you're going through it with somebody. It takes 2 hands. And the last is, it wasn't made to shape itself. We try to build a life that looks good, but we fall apart without a creator, without a potter, without somebody who has their hands on our life. And so what happens is we ask God for strength. He gives us fire. We don't understand what that means. We ask for breakthrough. He sends us through the fire, which seems confusing. Why? Because he's shaping something permanent within us, shaping something permanent within us. Perhaps you lost a job and you thought you were climbing this ladder, and it turns out it was just leaning on the wrong building, right? So now you're unemployed and finally unattached from this toxic system that you were a part of for so long, and God didn't subtract security. He created space for clarity. And you weren't fired, you were freed. And you couldn't see that from the beginning, but you saw it on the other side of this. How about a relationship that ends and the addiction broke, right? You thought it was love, and it wasn't. It was full-out control, and now you're sitting in an apartment by yourself and wondering where the heck God is, and God's whispering at the same time. He says, now that they're gone, I can finally show you who you are without performing. And he didn't just remove the person, he removed the idol. See what I mean? Anxiety spiked, but your prayer life finally came alive, and you used to use prayer like a formality, right? So now you're begging God to hold your brain together at 3 a.m. You know what that feels like? God, hold me together, which is not ideal, but it is brutally honest, and for the first time, you're not pretending, you're depending on God. God didn't give you the anxiety, but he's using it to shatter self-reliance. God uses things to make things more beautiful. You're being tested by fire. You're pushing through the fire. And on the other side of that, we get to see how God has reshaped us with it. And the end, what looked like the end for us, becomes the evidence of his hands in our life. You're not meant to be Play-Doh. You're not meant to be soft. You're not meant to pick up dirt or get smashed easily or melt in the pressure and eventually dry up into some weird crusty blob that nobody wants to be around. That's not what we were designed for. We were designed to be pottery, to be shaped by his hands, to be hardened by the heat in our life and strong enough, wait for it, to carry something valuable within us. A lot of us don't believe that we can do that. A lot of students don't believe that they are able to carry something beautiful within them or something valuable within them. And so a lot of us think, what's the point? What's the point of being a vase if I can't hold water? And God is still reshaping. He's still reshaping, and he's sealing it in the fire. And so what fire are you currently standing in right now? And how can you recognize that there is another in that fire with you, that James is telling us the truth in this, that this isn't the end, that this isn't just a random thing, this isn't punishment, that this is the fire, and if you stay in the fire, you'll come out forged on the other side, not failed like you may think that you are. So as we close today, we ask ourselves, how do we get into a place where when things happen in our life, we don't immediately ask God to get us out, but we ask him to make something out of it. Make us something within it. Because you were never called to be soft, you were called to be shaped, fire-tested, fire-proven, sealed by the hand of God. And in this series, we hope to be able to show you a little bit more about what it means to live a James 1 era, a James 1 lifestyle, being doers of the word and not listeners only. Join with us as we close today. God, I thank you so much for what you continue to teach us here at Essential Church, for lessons like this that seem so basic and elementary, but such an incredible reminder that you are in control of our lives, that the fires that we go through and are tested by, that those don't define who we are, that when our life falls apart or we get smashed or we get mashed into another shape, that it doesn't mean that we are permanently defined by that, but that, God, you are working something incredible within us. Give us the strength to go through life looking at it from a James 1 perspective, to count it joy knowing that you are doing something incredible, because our strength comes from your joy, which is restoration. And Father, we know that you are working restoration within all of us. God, I thank you for who you are. I thank you for this opportunity to worship you. Father, continue to help us stay focused this week with whatever fires pop up, to not run away, but to push through. Praise in your name. Amen.